Hello, everybody. Welcome to our session. Today, we're going to talk about improving our in-editor workflows with Unity Muse. So my name is Manuel Sainsily. I am a senior AI advocate at Unity. I actually joined the company a couple years ago, 3 years ago now, as an XR product designer. And I transitioned to advocacy. I'm based in Montreal, Canada, but I'm originally from Guadeloupe in the Caribbean.
Yes, and I'm Martina Johannesson. I'm one of the senior technical product managers for Unity Muse. I've been with Unity for a little bit more than 4.5 years, and I'm based out of Copenhagen, but originally Swedish.
Awesome.
And today we're showcasing Unity Muse, our collection of AI capabilities for game development. And using generative AI, Muse helps you turn your ideas into prototypes faster and makes your development more smooth. So regardless if you've used or tried Muse before or not, we're going to refresh your memory and show you what we introduced at GDC earlier this year.
Get ready for some music.
Yes, and so what are all of these tools for? Well, we want to put the power of AI into the hands of all of you, our creators. And instead of disrupting your workflows, we want to make sure that these tools are deeply enhancing your workflows and reducing your development time. Specifically, AI helps you to resolve your issues more quickly without having to sift through docs up and down or searching through the internet. You can find the answers you're looking for right within the context that you're working in. So with tools like chat directly in the editor, you can get more answers, less searching, and explaining your problem upfront. You can also create higher fidelity working prototypes. So instead of showing a glimpse of a vision of a static vision, you can actually have a scene that you can implement and show and get alignment around. And so lastly, teams that already has their stuff in place and they're done with prototyping, AI can also help more easily and quickly iterate and edit assets right within the editor. So what are we trying to do here today? So our goal for today is to show you how you can improve your already existing workflows, create new workflows when you're iterating scenes. So Manu, you're going to drive the demo. And as a designer, also an actual trade, you're going to show us how we can implement things and iterate on the scenes. And I am going to use my technical product manager hat, but I'm also going to double as a studio stakeholder trying to drive this prototype to the next level. But our main goal here is to show how you can iterate on already existing things, but also take stuff from new and elevate the game and take it to the next level.
Who has already downloaded the URP sample scene before in the room? All right, okay. So we presented it earlier this year at GDC, but using the garden temple scene. This time we're going to play in the Oasis, very beautifully designed by our demo team. And this is where we're going to have fun with the different Muse tools. So as we said, let's get into specifics. Those are all of the Muse tools that we're going to get into today. So sprite, chat, behavior, texture, 2D enhancers, and animate. And it's going to be interesting. We're going to go one after the other, starting with chat.
Yes. And so earlier this year, we introduced Muse Chat's ability directly embedded into the editor. And so why is this important? Well, we took it further than just taking an already existing product into the editor. We deeply embedded it. So imagine having a tool that understands not only the editor, but also your project and how it evolves. So it deeply comprehends your project, and this is a significant leap when it comes to using chat-based tools as part of debugging processes. And so now it can tailor its answers based on the things that you are interacting with in your scene, and you can use exact elements out of your scene to try and understand what's going on or what is not working. And so also, by allowing you to attach things directly into your question, chat can focus its response more deeply and hone in on what you think is relevant to really solve your problems. So whether you're debugging a tricky piece of code or finding something going on in the console that you can't really understand, Muse Chat is here to support you. And not only does the attachment-driven approach help refine the accuracy of the responses, but it also makes Muse Chat that really powerful ally in problem solving and development. And another thing is that Muse Chat doesn't just scratch the surface. It digs deep. It really tries to understand what is going on. So whether it's, detailing or understanding your settings, because if you ask about physics, and we'll see this in a little bit, it will understand that, oh, I should go in and look at the physics settings. So it's obviously an ideal tool when tackling challenges using the Unity editor.
So let's show you how chat is embedded directly inside the editor right now. So the first thing that you want to do after installing the packages is go in the menu, click on Muse, and then Chat. It's going to pop out a floating window that you can dock wherever you feel comfortable with. I like to put it just right there so I can see my scene at the same time. And you have a very straightforward interface, access to new chat right there by clicking on the plus button. You can also see a history of your previous chat. I like to use it, for example, to ask questions about the project. So let's try to ask it, hey, can you give me, I always say hey to AI, be nice. Can you give me summary of the project? So as you enter the question, you see this beautiful loading bar, design bar, product team, and it gives you an idea of how long you have to wait. And right away, we're getting a bullet points response right there. It knows the Unity version. I'm on Unity 6. I'm running the PC high rendering pipeline on URP. The target platform is standalone Windows, et cetera, et cetera. So it knows about the project settings and the context. But it doesn't end there. You also have access to attach elements. For example, if I click on a specific thing in the scene, I can show that I can attach it for context.
Yeah, and so that's really cool, right? And we've been hearing people wanting to do this for months and months and months. Why don't we have this kind of tool directly in the editor? We're like, actually, we've been working on that for quite a bit now. So we're super excited. But let's take a peek into what the future holds. So we're not stopping there, because the next generation of Muse and Muse Chat and our new beta features will empower you to prototype things faster. So you can iterate and create scenes within a matter of seconds and automate repetitive tasks that is really just drawing down that creativity. And so Muse Chat is here to start doing the heavy lifting on your behalf, allowing you to experiment and iterate with more ease than ever before. And we're also strengthening our support around code so that we can make sure that you have pre-compiled and tested code at your fingertips. Let's look at what that actually means, though. So we all know that rapid prototyping is an essential piece to quickly bring your ideas to life, to get alignment in your teams, and get that vision really solid. So by setting up scenes and adjusting elements and managing those repetitive tasks for you so that you don't have to spend time doing that, we really hope to speed up your creative flow. So with Run, running commands on your behalf, we're empowering you to focus on what really matters to you: creative exploration and innovation. And what I mentioned around code is that we now have a dedicated code generator. So we pre-compile the code before we send it to you. And if it doesn't compile, we send it through a multi-shot repair loop to make sure that it does. So Muse Chat steps in, refines it, and iterates on it so that it becomes more robust for you. And why is this important? Well, it's going to provide you with more error-resilient code, and it's going to cut down on that debugging time so you can spend time, again, doing the things that you enjoy the most.
Awesome. So now we'll continue using Muse Chat, but now we're going to demo what run and code allow us to do. So I'm moving the camera a little bit around the scene, and I see that, for example, we are in desert, in the oasis. There's not a lot of vegetation. So what if I wanted to accelerate the population of assets? I could click here on this particular plant and attach this item for a reference. I can also just drag and drop it directly from the hierarchy or from my assets as well. And what's fun is that this also worked with console errors, script files, and so on. Then I would switch to the Run tab at the bottom. So this is how you know you're not just talking to chat, but asking it to do something for you. And then you can just talk in natural language, don't need to know the editor. So I can say something like, scatter this object 5 times on a radius of 2 units. And if I click here, it's going to do the same with the loading bar. But in this moment, it's starting to write a script in the background that will do exactly this action. But instead of being something that I will attach to the object, it's going to be an action that can run directly within the editor, having fun directly over there. So it's almost ready. And once it's ready, it's going to show me a rectangle box, giving me a summary of what I asked, translating my natural language from a basic human being that doesn't know the Unity editor to an actual feature within the editor with the proper naming. So in this case, the attached object fountain2 LOD0 will be instantiated 5 times in the scene, and they will be scattered on a radius of 2 units. Let's try it. Again, this is generative AI. It doesn't always work. Let's have fun.
It's also really
there we
new.
go. And so now we scattered the object multiple times, but we can see that, have this complex mesh. And it's not always perfect, and that's not really what you would like to do. You would probably want to make sure that it follows the floor. So if I go in my history right there, I actually pre-created another action, and that's the value of Muse Chat. If you have had success with a specific action, you can favorite it, add it to your favorite, and think about it as macros, right? So in this case, I have this more complex prompt. So if you're a prompt engineer or if you had a more back and forth interaction until you found this nice interaction that you like, you can now reuse it accordingly. So if I go over there and I select, for example, this tree and then this rock together, without specifying anything, my specific action wants to duplicate any selected object 10 times, randomly on the z-axis, bring it up in the sky, and then use the raycasting of the orientation of my scene camera, follow me over there, to actually point that object and scatter it where I'm looking at. So if I look in this direction, for example, and I click on the action, boom. Now I can easily populate the scene. And I could do that with all of the different objects, and every time I will go back and scroll and click, it will do that for me.
I think we should take a minute and just recognize how incredible this is.
Thank you. What's funny is that the team working on this project didn't know we could do that. This is by trying to make a nice demo for you guys that we ended up discovering new things. And we are eager to see where you can push the tool. Maybe there are things that are not possible that you try to do and it won't work, and that's fine. But there are things that we didn't think about that you might discover. For example, I have here an aquarium, which is basically just an empty object in the scene with a mesh renderer of a square. I hide it so we don't see the aquarium. And it looks like this is the giant space that I want to populate maybe a fish in. So I have this action over there that is basically a scatterer, the same way that I did before, but instead of selecting an object from the scene hierarchy, it's selecting a prefab directly in my folders. So if I look down into my fish over there, which is an asset that you can find on the asset store, I have this beluga, which is an animated fish. And instead of doing it manually and then put it everywhere, I'm going to attach it as a reference, and I'm going to click on this action that what it does, scatter the prefab 5 times at random positions within the volume of the collider of the aquarium. And because I don't want all of the fish to look in the same direction, I'm asking it to rotate it randomly on the y-axis. And just like that, it should work, but it cannot locate the game object. That's fine. So what I would do instead is that I'm going to make sure that I attach the aquarium also in the message. Doing so gives the reference to the message, and then when I click, now my fish is populated. And it follows exactly what I wanted, the different orientation. Now to finish, we'll bring it home with code. So remember when Martina said you have the actions? Code is more about generating script and then saving them within your assets. So that will normally be the 3rd tab over there. But instead of generating code and wasting time on the demo, I, again, have an amazing thing ready for you guys. So this is a patrol script. And what I did before is that I created those little points over there. It's just a list of empty items, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what I'm doing is that I'm going to select all of the clone that we just scattered. I'm going to lock the inspector at the top right. And the script that I wanted to do is to basically create a looping animation of the fish going randomly between those different points, like if they are patrolling. But I want that to be random, and I want each fish to follow a different direction, so it doesn't look like they're following each other. And then the script, once I have it, in this interface, you can do multiple things. You can copy it. You can also save it. And if you do so, you choose a name, you put it in your folders. In my case, I already pre-done that, which is over there. You can drag and drop the script, add it. And the thing that I'm going to modify is the speed. I'll put 1. Rotation, so that's how fast they move between the different points. I'll put 3. And I just need to specify the patrol. So again, I'm choosing all of the patrol points, adding to the list. And now, if I press play, and I go into the scene, we now have a little fish pound. And that took me a couple seconds just in front of you guys. I'm not a developer again, I'm just a designer, but Muse is able as a companion to help me do those amazing things.
So you can really see how you can bring a vision of an idea quickly into a scene so you can have a conversation about it more fruitfully.
Awesome.
Yes. Right, so Run and Code is coming out in experimental beta starting next week. And we're hoping to roll it out to more users later on. And we're also, like Manu mentioned before, super excited to get your feedback and see how much we can push this. Because again, it's so new, it's never been done before. And so we need your help to figure out the bounds of this together. Because we want to make sure that it's something that's useful for all of you. And so we're going to share a QR code later on, so you can try it out for yourself. And of course, we'll also share all the prompts that were shared today with anyone who participates in the beta.
Sharing the sauce.
Sorry?
Sharing the secret
Yeah,
sauce.
the secret sauce. I mean, it's all prompt engineering. Cool. So now we've seen how Muse can help you iterate and create scenes, generate scripts of pre-tested code, and answer your questions. But let's talk about a capability that helps make your scene more dynamic by putting behavior players and characters into motion. Behavior. So in Unity, there has not been a built-in behavior tree editor before. But Unity Behavior fills this gap, and it provides an integrated editor right within the context that you're working in. And so it allows you to build and manage AI logic without any external tools. And what's great about Unity Behavior is the balance of simplicity and customization. So out of the box, you have a built-in actions to create basic game logic with no coding required. But as you become more comfortable and you want to take this further, you can also dig deep and adjust the code yourself. So it offers the flexibility you need as you grow and scale. And the seamless integration into Unity that you're about to see soon also means that managing behaviors is very quick and intuitive. And in fact, you can set up simple AI behaviors with 3 clicks. And so this obviously having the potential of streamlining your workflows even more. And finally, it's part of the Muse ecosystem, but you can use Unity Behavior separately as well. It's for free. But if you want to have that little nudge and getting the LLM setting up your behavior tree as well, you can use it through the Muse suite as well. Let's look.
Yeah, so in that moment, what we're going to do is show you how to use the behavior package. In your assets, right-click, click on Create, and then you have this behavior window over there. Make sure to select Behavior Graph. It will create a new behavior graph, and when you double-click on it, it will open this nice window, again, designed by the super cool product design team. And we're a little bit jealous of what this project is doing, because if you look at the other previously designed graph, this looks like fresh. And we would like eventually to bring this to all of the other aspects of Unity. So here I have this 2D Canva. I can zoom in and out. And I can right-click to add new nodes. I can search. I can look into specific actions. But what's cool with behavior this year compared to what you've seen previously is that we have a bunch of new nodes. So let's try a new one that helps us maybe add another fish in this pond. In this case, I can also press the spacebar and then search for instantiate. So I will instantiate an object. You connect the two like this. And this object will be a game object. I'm going to give it a name. Maybe it's going to be fish. And then I want to play, let's say, a particle effect with bubbles to make sure that the fish, when it spawns, also does something fun and not just stay there. So we have this new way of playing different things. So you go into action, and then you can not find it and look at typing play. And so you can play either an audio file, for example, or now a particle system. That didn't used to be the case. So I'm going to create a new particle system in my blackboard. The blackboard is basically my list of variables. I can always create them and reference them later in the component. So in this case, I want a particle system. I'm adding it over there. I'm giving it a name like bubbles, particles. Perfect. I'm going to reference it over there. And the target should be the thing that I'm instantiating, right? So in this case, it's going to be the fish. And then you have two ways. Either you drag and drop like this, which is also a nice way. And look at this nice interaction. I'm a node sucker, so looking at this, I'm like, nice. The team did a
Not the
good
little
job.
things.
But you don't need to do this. You can also just drag and drop it. If you know it's happening right after, it just stick together, and now they're friends forever. Another thing that can happen when you have a lot of nodes is they get messy. So if you select everything and you shift A, they will nicely align all the time. Finally, let's look at the inspector on the right. So not the big inspector, but the inspector within the graph. If I click on a specific element, I can expand over there and see that there's a bunch of stuff that happen. So here, the object, which is the fish, will be instantiated. That means we need a new game object as well for the instance. And we're going to call it instance. Super complex. And instead of playing the bubble on the fish, since the fish is on our assets, we actually need to play it on the instance instead. So I'm going to remove that and choose the instance over there. Again, clicking on the instantiated part, there's the target. So the target should be self. And what we're going to use is the aquarium as the object we attach the graph to. So self will be the aquarium. You can rename that if you want to make it make sense, but it's not necessary. I just like to be super ADHD about my stuff. And then at the bottom, for the play button, you also have a couple of things that you can do in the inspector, but in this case, we don't really need anything. Finally, you can debug to check that everything works, but before, you need to attach a component to the aquarium. So let's look at the aquarium again. And now we'll do add component. Look for graph, agent, and finally behavior agent. In this case, we just need to go attach this behavior graph over there, and all of our Blackboard variables are appearing right now. So we have the aquarium. All I'm missing is the fish. So let's go and find our friend, the beluga again. I'm going to add it to the list as the fish. And I have this particle that I pre-created before that I'm going to use for the particle over there. And finally, the instance, I'm not filling it because it's going to create it when we play the graph. So again, we go back to our graph. We click on debug, which allows us to follow along and see if there's anything that bugs so we can fix it. And I'm going to play. And instantly, when I look at the screen, I now have a new fish with a bunch of bubbles. The problem is that's way too much bubbles. So how to avoid that is by simply removing the repeat function. Because what it's doing is just continuously adding a fish and adding bubbles. So you click here, you avoid doing that. I'm going to make sure that I select again the particle system. And over there, you see, we can actually also position the offset of that bubbles. Earlier when we played, I noticed that it was a little bit too close to the fish. So I'm just going to add 0.5 on the x-axis and also 0.5 on the z-axis, so it starts a little bit higher. And let's try again to debug and play. And now it's not playing. And you know the reason why? It's because it needs a second to actually happen. So we have this nice node called wait. So you just press play, add wait. I'm going to add wait in between the two. With this nice little blue bar on the hover, it just positions it exactly where I want. I'm going to wait 1 second. Play again. Look at the scene. And after 1 second, our bubbles are playing. Perfect. Thank you, behavior. Thanks to you, I'm able to showcase this cool graph. The other thing that I want to show you is another super fast example of behavior graph, but a more complex interaction. So if you've played with the URP sample scene before, you'll notice that there's a bunch of different scenes, like I said before, and they are connected by teleporter. But because I'm playing directly in the dessert scene, we don't have the teleporter here. So we're going to make our own. And a little bit later, we'll show you Muse texture, so don't be scared about this huge mask that's going to appear. It will make sense soon. But what we're going to use as an example is this graph that I pre-selected for it. So you can also, instead of creating the components, just drag and drop your graph and it will make the components for you. I go here, put it over there, teleport, perfect. And what's happening for this is that it's looking at a target. The target should be the player camera or the player capsule. So you can also just search for it. Boom. And I'm going to show you exactly what that means in the graph. So when I click on the teleport graph, you see that it's a little bit more complex than the other one. And if I were to create like a messy positioning and things that are hovering and I'm kind of lost in my section, again, we can click Shift A, everything makes sense. So what's happening? Let's look at it very quickly. I'm going to debug the mask. And
Manu, before we go along, there's a double one right now. Do we want to...
A double what, sorry?
There's
Oh,
a
yeah,
double.
sorry. I
Yeah.
actually added it twice. That's true. Let me remove that.
Cool.
Perfect. Debug, click on the mask. So what this graph does is basically making sure that this thing is hovering up and down. So it's a very basic set self position to Y and then Y with just like 1 unit less. And it's going to repeat. This time we want the repeat. Until, because it's running in parallel, a conditional node. This conditional node is constantly checking the distance between the mask and the player capsule. And when I go within the value that I choose, so in this case 7, it will start playing the rest of the graph. So let's try that. I'm going to start the debug again, play the view, and this time I'm going to actually move. You see how we have this cross at the bottom? That means that the condition is not true. And then I'm going to approach. We see the hover happening and repeating. Bottom, left, top, left, top. That's perfect. That's what we want. And when I get closer, something happens. And so this interaction is my teleportation. I want to show you what's happening in detail. It's basically waiting for 2 seconds before the teleportation. And those 2 seconds are basically just the time that I want to create this nice animation. So I'm just doing a scale to 0 and a rotation on the y-axis by 180. And on both of those nodes, I added a duration that is equal to the wait time before the loading of the new scene. So load scene is also a new thing that you can do. It just requires a string, and the screen is also on the variable on the blackboard. So just like that, again, we're able to create a very nice implementation. And I chose, just as a wink to the GDC demo we did earlier, the garden scene, you probably noticed. And yeah, so that's behavior graph. Thank you.
Yes, so as you can see, we've made multiple improvements to behavior as well to allow for more complex interactions and easier behavior graph creation and management. And our Blackboard system that you just saw allows for a wider support, or supports a wider range of objects and resource types like audio clips, particles, textures, and even your custom user types. And so you can embed these resources directly into Node, streamlining the workflows and reducing the need for external references. And so we also have global Blackboard variables that stretch across the entire project. We've also introduced new abort and restart nodes to make sure that you can control the behavior tree more controlled, and you can execute and restart, giving you more flexibility when you're creating behavior trees.
Oh, and there's one thing that I forgot to tell you, but each of these nodes, obviously, it's nice for people like me that don't understand the code behind, but you can just right-click on them, edit script, it will open your IDE of choice, and you'll see the code. You can edit it, make it better. And right now, the thing that Martina is showing is the dynamic subgraphs. So what's cool with that is that in the past, it would be really hard to ship new code to a DLC in your game. Well, in that case, we can bring a new subgraph directly into your game, which means that you can ship basically new code by this feature. So that's actually really huge for our users, and we hope to make you have fun with it.
Yes. And now we're going to talk about adding art to your scene. So last night at Unite, we introduced Muse Sprite, which transforms text prompts into 2D usable sprites. And we heard you loud and clear that you wanted more variability and more diversity when it came to the actual 2D prompt or 2D sprites that you wanted to use and implement. So we've been working with AI verified solutions Layer and Scenario to make their models available directly in the Muse Sprite package and closer to your workflow.
So in our case, we're going to go again into our nice menu, click on Muse, and then New Sprite Partners Generator. So as opposed to just the regular sprite, in this case, we have this pop-up showing us all of the different models that we can play with. I like to use the generic one. I'm going to show you how I created the particle effect. So I would type something similar to a soap bubble, as simple as that, because I want my fish to drink soap. And then I click on generate. And this is the amount of images that I want. So 1024 by 2024. So that's going to be a square. But we have access to a bunch of different resolution, portrait, and landscape. And then the add to prompt is basically different ways that you can drive the animation, the visual, sorry. So you can have an image that drives it, a style reference, composition, pose reference for characters, which is super huge, depths, as well as line art. So in our case, when we find a bubble that we like, we can double click on it. And one of the tools that, if you've been yesterday to the demonstration from 2D Enhancer, is the remove of the background. So if I click here, I get access to that feature right into the sprite generator. And once it's ready, usually it's tough, on things like that, even with Photoshop skills. Obviously, that's a perfect circle, but if it wasn't, that would be a bit hard. But in that case, that's it. And then you just drag and drop it to your asset. And that's how I created the bubble. But I want to also show you how to make fun stuff that can be outside of the particle effect. So for example, in this case, I would create again a new Muse sprite. And I'm just going to show you the result that I got. I look for a bunch of different clouds. And the difference is that I use the line art generator. And I use this sketch. Don't make fun of my sketch, okay? That's an amazing cloud. So I'm adding the cloud as a reference. And I'm cranking up the strength to 90. And by doing that, you can see that the composition here was driven by that sketch. Once I found it, I drag and drop it in my assets. And now it's ready. I'm going to show you after what we do with it on 2D Enhancer.
Yes. So what we've showed you today with the Muse Sprite partners is currently in closed beta, but we're hoping to roll that out to more users as well later in the year. And so speaking of sprites, and speaking of what Manu hinted towards earlier, we're super excited to announce our latest release, which is 2D Enhancers. Mm-hmm. Yay! Yeah, and our teammate Russ, also in the very back here, he unveiled this new capability in his breakout session yesterday. Say hello to better 2D workflows with AI. And I highly encourage you to go find him in the 2D tools booth, demo booth later on. But to give you a high-level overview of what that meant is that it marks a really good, it marks what we want to do with AI in the editor, which is bringing it into your workflows. And that is exactly what the 2D Enhancer team has done. So it allows you to edit any sprite in your library directly in the sprite editor using the capabilities of AI to do so. So with this tool, you can now upscale lower resolution art to more modern resolution requirements that you might have now. You can also recolor sprites directly in the sprite editor to create different variations for different moods or seasons or themes that you might want to cater to. You can also easily remove unwanted backgrounds from images and then plug them straight into your scene. So creating and updating 2D games for re-release has never been easier with the 2D enhancers. Do you want to show us, Manu?
Let's do it.
Yay.
So in this case, we'll take the cloud. And the problem that I have with it is that if I wanted to add it in the scene, obviously, it's not going to look nice. So we're going to play with it. And instead of opening the Muse sprite generator, we'll go into Windows, 2D, and it's right where you're used to on the sprite editor. Obviously, you know now the branding of Muse is this little icon at the top right. By clicking on it, I have access to all of the features we just showed you. So before I upscale it, I want to recolor it. And a good way to do that, so that the cloud actually fits the scene, is maybe to take a screenshot of the sky, which I did as a gradient, and just drag and drop it over there. It will instantly create a color palette for you, which can in itself be a nice tool to have. I'm always struggling with that online. And then you click on recolor. And what it's going to do is going to try to adapt this color palette to the sprite. It's not always perfect, so give it a couple try, different generated items. But like Martina said, this is in the sprite editor, so you don't have to use generative AI sprites only. You can do that with sprites you already have and now recolor your already designed games item. So in this case, I want my cloud to not look like we're in Greece, but maybe in a desert instead. And at the end, we have this sprite over there. I can choose to upscale it, and we can also remove the background once again. And once I do that, I'm going to save it at the bottom over there. Give it a second. And that's another example of how that can work differently if you do an upscale or not. And when you're ready, you just apply it, just like so. And now we do have a cloud that we can play with. So I'm not going to struggle to position it for you. I'm just basically going to show up the cloud that I already put in the sky. And just like that, that's another example of how you can play with 2D inside of a 3D scene. It doesn't have to be just a tool you use for your 2D games, okay? So yeah, that's basically it.
Super cool. Yes, I agree. Fully agree. So speaking of editing objects, let's talk a little bit about Muse Texture. Some of you might have already tried it, but Texture basically allows you to turn simple text prompts into detailed textures that you can view as physically accurate PBR materials. You can then edit and refine them before you export them and apply them to the objects in your scene. We're going to look at that too.
Boom.
Yeah.
Remember that weird mask from earlier? I'm going to show it up again. The texture on it has been generated with Muse Texture. So I'm going to show you that. It's basically a tool that you access through the same window, new texture generator. And you can have fun here and do what you want. Let's try to make a new gold texture. And again, when you have the generative AI aspect, it's not always perfect, and that's fine. Double click on it, and you have access to tools like in painting. I can increase the radius, maybe paint those sections to have a little bit less shiny on this gold, and then hit generate again. It won't be perfect, it won't make it flat, but it will at least reduce a little bit of that. And I'm still keeping the generation to 4, so I have a few different variations here. That one seems perfect, awesome. I can right click and view it as a PBR material. That means that just right there with just a text prompt, even one word, you're able to get all of your different maps from occlusion to metallic to smoothness. So I'm going to crank it up because that's gold. Same with the smoothness. And because it's gold, we don't want it to be too bumpy, so I'm going to reduce the height map and then drag and drop it directly into our game assets. At the end, you get this nice little shader that you can just apply to an object. And look how shiny that is.
Super shiny.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's have fun with another one. So I'm going to show you a couple one that I pre-generated as well. All of those are generated through Muse Texture. Obviously not the full scene. This is a beautifully designed scene by artists. And the goal here is not to replace your tech artists, but work with them to prototype. If I open the gold texture, there are aspects of it that are not perfect, and I can always tweak it. So for example, here I was trying to make a carpet. So another thing that you can do with Muse Texture now is have access to the shape as a driver. And in this case, what I selected was those lines. And then I did something like oriental carpet. Doesn't have to be precise. And then you crank up the strength. But before, we heard complaint of people saying, we would like to be able to drive with the color and the pattern at the same time, which now you can do by typing here the hexadecimal aspect that you want, or just playing with the radio bottle. And then when you're ready, you click on generate. Again, the strength depends on how strong you want the prompt to be followed versus the image. And then all of these different things that you get, we can again transform them into PBR material. And yes, it looks a little bit weird right now. That's because I'm going to crank up the tiling. So let's see what we get on the square item. We can change the style to maybe a cube so we can see it better. I'm going to change the tiling to 8. That looks more like so. And I'm going to increase the height map because I want this fuzziness, on the edges, because that's going to be a little carpet thing. And then when I'm ready, I can just drag and drop it in my scene. Wait a second, close this. And now I have this thing that I can add. And always click on the object afterwards, go into your component material, and compile the tiling back to 8. And just like that, we have a new pillow. Perfect.
So instead of having to sift through massive asset packs worth of gigabytes with different textures, you can drive the texture closer to what it is you had in mind originally.
We can make the pillow go. If we want.
Maybe not super comfortable. I don't know. I would prefer that myself, but
And the last thing I'll show you is that we have a little guy called Adam. If you've seen Time Ghost yesterday, the demo team have been making a lot of different Unity demo that are amazing. Every year I get just so excited about them. And I'm personally in love with Adam. I think it's a really cool character. So one thing that I did, and that's a little tool that we used as presenter at Unity made by my manager, Mike. if you could click on those different shots, I can get a very close-up shot of his eye that I dragged and dropped the gold texture on. And it's just to flex how cool that is. I really enjoy being able to like go close-up on those textures. They are fully generated by AI. This is mind-blowing. And just like that, we have Muse texture.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we've made lots of improvements to texture as well. So we're really excited to share that we've made in-painting even more consistent and detailed in terms of following prompts, as well as image-to-seamless texture. So you can now outpaint the borders of a texture and have it real photo to transform it into a seamless texture. So you can wrap it super nicely around different objects. And that was texture. Moving on to animate.
Final piece. What I love about this is that I usually get super weird things, so we're gonna play it out and try to do some stuff together. So I click on Muse, new animate generator, and right away you can see another pop-up windows with all of my previously failed or successful attempt. And we're gonna try to do something together, for example, looking around, because I wanted to look at the fish that we made earlier and just make all of that story make sense. And over there, you choose the amount of time you want the duration of that animation to be, and just in a couple of seconds, you already have something. So I'm going to crank up the view here so you can see it better. And we can also ask for more, so 4 and maybe 5 seconds. So now it's going to create 4 little animation clip of 5 seconds in a few seconds. And this is huge. This will take weeks for a normal traditional animation team. But obviously the goal again is not to replace the artist. If you've watched the live stream that we did yesterday on the Unity Twitch, I was talking about that. The goal here is to give you a prototyping aspect, conversation with your stakeholder, being able to have this early ideation cost time reduced so you can spend more time fine-tuning the details. So once you find an animation that you like, you double-click on it, you get this nice view, and you can sample it. What it does is that it's going to bake those into a timeline. And then it's going to try to understand the different step of the animation into different square that you can look at and different thumbnails. And when you're ready, you convert them into frames. Once you're into the frame section, you have access to those buttons. Those are called effectors. You can play with them. It have inverse kinematics, so you'll be able to do fun stuff with any aspect of it. But every time that I release my mouse, you see the little loading button at the top right? It's just trying to make sure that all of the rest of the animation is still flowing. So if I press play, it's going to make sure to follow along. It's just waiting a few seconds to sample it, and there we go. And the last frame is not always the first frame. So one thing that you can do at the end is loop to first pose. Then, like on Spotify, you click here to repeat, or Apple Music if you prefer. And then click here, wait a second for the sample again. And now my guy is looking around. And it's looping to the first pose. And if you wanted him to wait a bit more, you will duplicate that frame, etc.
You also saw the little...
Yeah, a little. Yeah? That's the effector that we move. Once you're ready, obviously, you just click on export. That gives you an animation clip. So you just save it, give it a name like animation or look around. And I'm going to try to bring this into the game. So the best way to do that is to keep that window open just to have fun and do the comparison. And I'm going to put it on the side just right there so we can compare. So let's say click here, and I'm going to look at him. And then clicking on this, I have access to a character controller. So I'm just going to open it. There's just one little animation, and we're just going to replace looking around with the one that we just generated. Make sure that it's looping, obviously. Add it over there. And then when you press play in the scene, now we have Adam looking at the fish. And we have a couple more that we can play with, so let's have fun. I'm going to bring it back, and maybe we want Adam to do some salsa.
We're in Spain, after all, right?
It goes the moves. I love it.
Super cool. Yes, so we know that animation is a complex craft, and so we wanted to make it easier for you to all kinds of creators that would love to put some characters into motion. And so the goal is to create 1 minute of animation in less than 5 minutes. and we're actually doing pretty well there. And so, yeah, animation can be intimidating, but Muse Animate is here to guide you and to make animation accessible without the needs of years of experience. But the important piece here is that it's also putting you in the step of putting something into a scene. It's not going to be perfect, but it's to get you somewhere quicker to iterate on. So there are 3 different steps. First, you can draft it, as we've seen. Text to motion, describe the action, what you want to see, and then Muse Animate generates the animation instantly. And then second, you can customize it using those effectors to make sure that your character is posing over time, and then if you change a behavior, the AI will also automatically generate the next frames to make sure that it's compatible with that edit. And third, like we also saw, it's super easy to integrate because you can just fit it directly into your workflow, you can export the animation, and get that FBX file into a smooth, seamless tool to implement. We've done massive improvements on animation as well. So, as you also saw, we've improved the animation library. So now you can tag, you can search through, and select previously generated animations. We've improved the model significantly. So it's resulted in more realistic and diverse animations and bringing more quality and variability to your projects. And coming soon is locomotion. Yay! Also super cool. It allows you to create an 8-direction locomotion system directly from a prompt as well. And this will, of course, just like all our AI tools, speed up your development workflows much faster, offering unmatched precision and ease of use.
Awesome. So now we want to show you a little sneak peek of what's to come.
And so you can now shoot impressive animations without an extensive mocap setup. So just with a single video of footage from your phone, it will result in a fully flexible animation clip. And then you can, of course, just like with all the animation clips, edit them to your needs and have them adjusted to the precision that you are looking for. And this is Christoph. Not this guy, but he's coming soon. Because you add a little reference video here, and then you'll see Christoph. And that's my fellow product manager coworker that has been kind enough to record this video.
He's in France right now, and he just sent us that video the other day. And basically what he's doing is that he's driving the animation using the video that he shot with his iPhone in his living room. Not fancy at all, doesn't need to have a green screen or a very complex suit or anything, just a video from your phone. And by doing so, he's able to reference that and bake this within. And you can see how that follows exactly the source input. So that's thanks to our partnership with the team. And what I love here is that we're able to still keep all of the editing that we need from the animation part and be able to then again play with the effector and maybe modify it. So it doesn't have to be a perfect input. It just drives you a little bit closer to what you want. Instead of just playing with text, now you have access to text and video as input. And at the end, we get this nice little animation clip. You can change the sensitivity of the sampling as well. And you sample it, get access to the effectors. You make sure that all of the different steps make sense. And he has a little bit of fun playing with the effector, maybe modifying the hand a little bit, making it rotate on its axis, lowering it down or bringing it up. Wants to give us a little thumb up. And with the other hand, same, you can be very precise with your movement. So that's what we expect people to be able to have fun with. And at the end, export the animation clip. And as a nice transition, I'm just going to bring you back into this with our guy still playing salsa in the background.
Never stopping, this guy.
It never stopped. Adam is the crazy guy partying since last time after party at Unite. And we're going to drink. So at the bottom, you see video to motion. That's the animation clip from Christoph. So I can just drag and drop it over there. And boom, that's the same animation that we've seen earlier. And it's waving at the camera and saying goodbye.
Yeah, we're pretty stoked about that one too. So now I'm gonna wear my studio hat.
No.
Yeah, I know. It's bound to happen. So I'm a sucker for drama, and I would love some more drama in our scene because now it's like very serene. It's calm. It's like, yeah, this is a nice adventure game maybe, but a bit tad too serene. Can we add some drama?
All right.
Anything unscripted
We'll do
or
it.
very scripted you have in store?
So there's this rock in the middle of the scene over there, and Martina, being a very nice stakeholder to work with, asked me to add some drama. So one thing that I discovered the other day is the difference between what a user might think is once from Muse chat and what is the translation into the actual prompting part of the Unity editor. So if you look at the history of my conversation here, I'm asking to duplicate the selected object 10 times at random XZ positions, 10 units above the selected object location. And then I'm saying add gravity. Obviously, gravity doesn't make sense in Unity language. So it's translating that to adding a rigid body. And then, because she wants drama.
Yeah, and I forgot to say what kind of drama it was. So
Yeah.
I want a meteor shower.
So
Right?
let's make it 50 rocks instead and go
Yeah.
crazy. And at the end, I have this animation that's ready. So the only thing is that I need to reference my attachment. And let's try to do it manually together. So I'm going to create a new chat window. Or maybe we can just find it and play with it. No, we're going to create a new one. Let's do it together. So I click
Playing with
here.
fire.
And I say duplicate any selected object 50 times. Boom. And let's see the result. I'm gonna hide the history. So again, processing request. Be very kind with the loading bar. Almost ready.
I mean, you can also see how much work it's doing under the hood, right? So there's no wonder it takes a slight second extra.
And finally, we can see the command if we want. Or when we're ready, we click on show. Oh, sorry, I need to stop being obviously in the play mode.
Yeah.
So let's go back here, click on my drama, click on my rock, and then boom, just like that, I have my 50 rocks in the sky. Are you ready? I'm gonna
think so. Are
increase
you
the
ready?
size of this. Press play. And gravity it is.
Yay. I wouldn't want to stand in there.
There you go. So again,
Cool.
you can have fun with that. That's another way to play with Muse Chat and the fun come and run.
So
Thank you.
that wraps up our demo for today. And all of these tools are more or less available to you. Everything is available apart from the beta features that we've showed you, but you can also get a hold of them later. So what is the purpose of Muse? It's to bring useful AI to you, like I told you, creators, and to make sure that we enhance and add speed and ease to your already existing or prototyping workflows, so you can focus on what you enjoy doing the most, whether that is writing code, creating art, or designing levels. Wherever your passion lies, we want to make sure you can focus on that. And so that's why we're continuously listening to your feedback. We want to co-create these tools with you. So don't be strangers. Please reach out in discussions and tell us what you want. And when you try things out, also provide us feedback.
The team really look into the forum and read every single message, so don't feel like your maybe weird idea will not get upvoted. Everybody reads everything, so just comment. And this QR code is a little surprise that we want to give to everybody that already had fun with Muse. We're restarting your trial from scratch and also extending it to 30 days. And if it's your first time, well, you had a full month of having fun with Muse. And you can go on unity.com/muse as well to learn more about the tool.
And if you're curious about the beta features, you can also sign up to the experimental features using this link. So create.unity.com/AI-signup. So this will give you access. Hopefully, we are a lot of people waiting to get access to these tools, as I'm sure you can imagine, to run code and the sprite partners.
Thank you. And if you have any questions, it's time to learn.
Yes.